Hey guys, welcome back. At the end of my last video, I had just finished explaining the code behind our asteroids game. So without further ado, let's test it out. Now this is running in an applet as I explained. Right now it's not web-based, it is running on my computer instead of on the web. But same results here. You may notice that the ship is using the draw rather than the fill, while the asteroids are using the fill. And this is about it for the asteroid game. As you can see, I can move around. I'm using the arrow keys to move around. I can also use WASD. You can see we've got our draw text, and we've got our asteroids, and if we shoot, we've got our bullets. So that's about it. I will put the code up with this video as well as with the previous video, so I would encourage you to check it out. Play with the code, change whatever you like, and make it your own game. So I'm also going to show you just really quickly the second code example I have. And as I said in my previous video, this code example, it's not a full game, but it showcases the use of raster graphics. So let's go through this line by line. I've got my include statements here, or not my include. Coming from a C-based background. My imports, and this program is going to extend JFrame. So this won't be an applet. This will be an application on the computer. I'm going to create an image and an affine transform. If you remember from my previous video, raster graphics, all the transforms, all the rotations, scaling, and translations have to be applied to the affine transform, and then that will be applied when we draw the image. So another difference between the applet and the JFrame application is the application needs a main method, and it needs that so that it can instantiate the main class. In this case, it's draw image. And so we've got our constructor where we set our base settings. We've got the title of our application, which is draw image, the size of the window, the visibility is set to true, and we set the default close operation. A lot of review from my previous tutorials on Java Swing. Now here we're going to create a toolkit. Like I mentioned in my previous video, this is like the load content or the content manager of XNA, and that's really why I named it content, just to show the similarity. Now we're going to load the image. We're going to use the toolkit to get the image based on a string representing the URL. And I've actually got a function here, get URL. We're going to pass the file name in, and we're going to try to get it from the resources in this class. Now that's why I've got my image files in the same directory as my source code. Basically, otherwise you would have to specify the whole path of the image. Now next we're going to come down here to the paint method. We're going to create our affine transform object, and we're also going to create a random number generator, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm going to create my graphics2D, and now I'm going to name this sprite batch. The same idea I named the toolkit content. I want to show you how the graphics2D object is similar to the sprite batch from XNA. And we're going to typecast the graphics that's passed in to the paint method. We're going to typecast it as graphics2D. Now, as I mentioned in my previous video, graphics2D it extends from graphics. It's basically graphics is basically the legacy version, and graphics2D adds more content to that. So we're going to set the color, and we're going to fill the background with black. Then we're going to create a for loop. We're going to create basically 50 random images using our image that we have, the egg. And we're going to start our transformation. We're going to set it to the identity, so it's based around the origin. Then we're going to translate it, rotate it, and scale it a random amount. And we're going to do this for each image that we draw. Now this is to showcase the ability to transform our raster images. So once we've created our random transform, we're going to draw the image. Now remember, I called it sprite batch, but we're drawing it to the graphics 2D. So we're going to draw the image, and we're going to give it the affine transform that we created. And we also have a parameter which is the image observer, which is basically just this class. So now let's run this, and it should create a bunch of random eggs. Yep, as you can see, now many of them appear off screen for some reason, but you can see they're randomly rotated, they're randomly placed, and they're randomly scaled. Now with raster graphics you can also use transparency, which is why I have this ghost egg right here. So if I go up here, if I change the path from egg to ghost egg, it's going to draw a semi-transparent egg. And you can see it's kind of hard to see with the black background, but here you can see the two eggs overlap, and you can see how the transparency works. And if I come down here and change the color to say red, you can see how the transparency shows through. And this is one of the big benefits anytime you're working with raster graphics, is the ability to handle basically transforms and to handle transparency. And this is a big part of creating our game. I can also come down here just to give you another idea. If I add more iterations through this for loop, now we have a lot more eggs. And you can see how the different levels of transparency, when they stack up, how it's drawn. So basically, that's about it. The whole idea of this is to showcase just how powerful Java is handling 2D graphics. It really is a great engine to use for creating 2D and 3D games, as we'll see in future tutorials. But that's about it. Like I said, I'll put the source code up on my video. I'll link to it. Feel free to download it and play around with it. Now, the game I created here, I used all vector graphics, but you're just as able to create your game using raster graphics. So I would encourage you to play around with that, and as always, have fun. Thanks.